whilst war built empires. But it also destroyed lives, erased cities, and stained the desert with blood. When we think of ancient Egypt, we imagine pyramids glowing under the sun, golden masks, calm temples, silent statues staring into eternity. We rarely imagine screaming battlefields, burning cities, broken bodies buried beneath shifting sand. But Egypt was not only a land of gods and monuments, it was a land of war. For more than 3,000 years, Egyptian armies marched across deserts, crossed rivers, crushed rebellions, and fought powerful empires for survival and dominance. These were not clean wars, they were brutal, personal, relentless. This is the story of the bloodiest wars of ancient Egypt. The first great wave of blood came during the early expansion of the Egyptian kingdom. As Upper and Lower Egypt unified, the new state began pushing outward, seeking control over trade routes, fertile lands, and strategic fortresses. Nubia, to the south, offered gold and manpower. The Levant to the north offered timber, metals, and access to Mediterranean trade. Pharaohs did not negotiate, they conquered. Carved reliefs show prisoners stacked like cargo, hands tied behind their backs, marched toward execution or slavery. Entire towns were burned to send a message. War was a tool of order. One of the earliest recorded military campaigns comes from Pharaoh Sneferu, who led massive expeditions into Nubia and Libya. Thousands of captives were taken, livestock seized, lands absorbed. These early wars built the foundations of Egypt's empire, but also normalized violence as a sacred duty. To fight was to serve the gods. Centuries later, Egypt faced an enemy unlike any it had known before, the Hyksos, foreign rulers from the Near East who invaded and occupied northern Egypt during the Second Intermediate Period. They brought new weapons, pharaohs and fenced bows, advanced bronze blades, and horse-drawn chariots. Egypt was humiliated. Cities fell. Temples were looted. Pharaohs ruled only the south. For decades, Egypt lived under foreign control, and then came revenge. Pharaohs, Second Chintne, Retan-Au, and Kamose launched brutal campaigns to drive the Hyksos out. Second Tianinenre died violently, his skull shattered by battle wounds still visible on his mummy. His son, Amoseyomo, finished the war. He destroyed Hyksos strongholds, chased survivors into the Levant, and executed traitors. Entire cities were erased from maps. Egypt emerged, hardened, militarized, and hungry for dominance. The new kingdom became an empire of soldiers. And blood followed. One of the most violent confrontations occurred during the reign of Thutmose III, often called the Napoleon of ancient Egypt. He led more than a dozen military campaigns into Canaan and Syria. His most famous battle took place at Megiddo. Enemy forces hid behind fortified walls. Thutmose took a risky mountain route to surprise them. It worked. But discipline collapsed as Egyptian soldiers stopped to loot instead of finishing the pursuit. The enemy escaped temporarily. The city was besieged for months. Starvation followed. Surrender came slowly. Captured kings were humiliated, their children taken as hostages, raised in Egypt as political weapons. War became systematic, calculated, ruthless. Then came one of the largest battles of the ancient world, the Battle of Kadesh, Egypt versus the Hittite Empire. Two superpowers collided with thousands of chariots, infantry, archers, and mercenaries. Dust clouds darkened the horizon. Horses screamed. Bronze shattered against shields. Ramses II nearly died when his forces were ambushed. Reliefs show him fighting alone, surrounded by enemies, calling upon the gods for strength. Whether this heroic image reflects reality or propaganda remains debated. What is certain is the scale of bloodshed. Thousands died. Bodies covered the battlefield. The war ended in the world's first known peace treaty, not because of mercy, but because both sides were exhausted and bleeding. Not all wars were against foreign enemies. Some of the bloodiest conflicts were internal. Civil wars erupted when dynasties collapsed. Brothers murdered brothers. Priests manipulated kings. Generals seized thrones. The end of the new kingdom descended into chaos. Tomb robberies exploded. Hunger spread. Authority collapsed. Violence turned inward. Egypt slowly weakened, falling prey to invasions from Libyans, Nubians, Assyrians, Persians, Greeks, and Romans. Every invasion brought new massacres, destroyed temples, enslaved populations. The land of gods became a battlefield, and behind every campaign were ordinary people. Farmers, forced into military service, young boys trained with spears instead of plows, families waiting for fathers who never returned. War carved trauma into generations. Weapons recovered from tombs tell silent stories. Chipped blades crack shields, blood-stained arrows. Skeletons show healed fractures and lethal wounds. History remembers kings. The desert remembers bodies. Egyptian art glorified war as divine victory. Pharaohs were shown crushing enemies beneath their feet, smiting foreigners before the gods. But the reality was dust, screams, fear, and death. War built Egypt's wealth, but it also planted the seeds of its decline. Empires rise through violence, and they fall through exhaustion. The bloodiest wars of ancient Egypt shaped borders, religions, politics, and identities. They created legends and mass graves. They remind us that behind every monument stands a history written not only in stone,